Now, today marks Armed Forces Day. While some say the day is about showcasing the Defence Forces' strength, but there's a hugely significant meaning to this particular day. It was on this day in 1917 that a worst naval tragedy unfolded when the SS Mendi sank on the English Channel, claiming over 600 lives. Let's talk more then about the significance and the history around this particular day and also other issues surrounding the SANDF. We speak to Professor Abel Esterhuyse. He is an associate professor of strategy in the Faculty of Military Science of Stellenbosch University. Thank you so much, Prof, for your time. Now,
good evening.
Thank you. Armed Forces Day is, of course, more than just about the showcasing of the military strength. Let's talk then about the significance of today.
Yeah, I think there's symbolism in everything the militaries are doing on parade, and I think the most important thing here is to recognize and see the symbolism in the way that the military is giving recognition to the president as their commander-in-chief. And it's of course not about the individual, it's about the military that is subjecting them to the political authorities in the country. It's saying something about our constitution and our democracy. There's also symbolism, of course, in the way that the military demonstrates their equipment, their technology, their capabilities in public. In an era of professional armed forces, there's a real danger that the military may become a peripheral institution. In fact, the danger of a large civil-military divide is a real one. And so there is important significance in if the defense force is taken to the people and demonstrated to the people. And then, of course, one need to give recognition to the message inherent in the parade that, to those who want to do us harm. And so the notion of deterrence is very much part of what the military is doing on parade, a strong message that we has a meaningful military capability and that we can use it if we have to. And then I think very importantly, there's always the historical dimension for us as South Africans, the 21st of February, the day that the SS Mendi was sunk. The parade is also a demonstration of the military's ability to participate in international operations and participate in with other countries to make this world of ours a safer and more secure place. And I think that's the inherent meaning of the sinking of the SS Mendi.
Now, Prof, looking at this particular day, do you think that enough is being done in order to talk about the history when it comes to the sinking of that particular ship? And I ask you because there are some concerns that over the years the story appears to be dissipating, especially because the bodies of those over 600 troops have still not been, were not retrieved, they were not laid to rest, and saying that their spirits are also not sitting well, in that English Channel. And others over the years saying that retelling this particular story is going to ensure that they did not die in vain.
No, I think the wider issue here is one of a recognition of our military history and our historical past, and that we have been part of international peace and security in the world for a very long time. And I think as South Africans, we need to celebrate that past. We need to give recognition to our armed forces for participating not only, in the First and the Second World War, but also in the last 20, 30 years in peacekeeping on the African continent and doing exceptionally good work in creating, I almost want to say, a new military history in the last 20, 30 years. And I think it's important for us as a country to hold that collective memory of what our military have done and what they are capable of, the good and the bad thereof.
And when we talk about what they've done, the good and the bad, and taking stock of that, I can't help but think about the Defence Review in 2015, when there were concerns that were raised around budget allocations, especially towards the military, and the possibility, of course, that there might be either a greater there should either be a greater budget allocation, or the country needs to significantly scale down when it comes to its ambition and the level of commitment in order for it to be aligned to the current budget. I wonder, when you look at the work that the military has done over the years, do you think this has been taken into account?
Yeah, I think the military have done exceptionally well in terms of the resources at their disposal. But I think last week in Parliament, again, in the Portfolio Committee on Defence, and the briefings that was given to the Portfolio Committee on Defence last week in Parliament, it was quite clear that our Defence Force is overstretched. We are really running into trouble in finding the balance between resources and commitments in our military. And so something has to be done about our military. Our military is really finding it very difficult to do the most basic things. Even to train properly have become quite a challenge. And let me be very specific here, perhaps, that the effectiveness of the military at a political level is tied to three very specific realities. Perhaps questions. The first, to what extent the military as an organization can assure themselves a regular share of the national budget for their basic needs, and we haven't ticked that box for quite a while. The second issue, I think, that is critical is the question as to what extent the military have access to the industrial and technological resources to sustain their equipment and to better their equipment and improve their equipment. And we're not ticking that box either. And then lastly, the question of to what extent our military should have access or have access to the quality and quantity of resource, manpower resources that is required. And that's perhaps the one box that we are, and the one area that we are still good on. We have quality of people in our Defence Force, and that's perhaps the one primary reason why we have sustained our Defence Force under severe pressure and budgetary strained budgetary challenges over the last couple of years. And I think that came out quite strongly in the speech of the president today as well.
And let's then talk finally about, we saw, especially in that speech by the president, the difficulties that the military has been going through. You talk about some of the deployments beyond our borders, and also you look at here back home as well during the July unrest. They've also been deployed, to also make sure that the state of disaster is also into full swing. I wonder, looking at all of these particular activities that they've had to do, and with a lot of South Africans asking some questions around the deployment of the South African Defence Force, and where would you say that our military stands in society today?
Well, that's an interesting question, and we can have a long debate about it. But I think we have to give recognition, I think, that the South African military is doing exceptionally good work in our society in maintaining peace, order, security in our society. But also, the military, I don't think, always get the recognition that it deserves and for what it has done in Africa over the last 10, 20 years, in places like Burundi, the DRC, and it is now deployed in Mozambique as well. And it has been done under severe budgetary pressure, and it is a defense budget that has been under pressure for quite some time. But then at the same time, I think one has to be honest about the defense budget. And I don't think there is much room within the national budget for defense, a larger share of the budget. So what are your options in such a scenario? You need to realign the structure, the personnel outfit, the technology with what is available. A defense force is in that way very much like a normal household. You can only do what you can with the resources at your disposal.
All right, Prof, thank you so much for your time. We'll have to leave it there. Appreciate your insights. That was Professor Abel Esterhuyse, Associate Professor of Strategy in the Faculty of Military Science of Stellenbosch University.